I wouldn't be surprised if on Monday we tuned in to Raw and Carlito was bald. Whatever that specimen, whatever that species is that Braun Breaker is going to run this company one day.
Whether it's them against each other or one's representing the World Heavyweight Championship and one's representing the Universal title, Fatu and Breaker are the two pillars for Raw and SmackDown. And that will happen within the next 2 years.
If he debuts after all this hype and all this time away and loses to Randy Orton,
right?
Like, that's not good. Like, he's dead in the water at that
point. Welcome to Left Turns, Right Hooks. Thanks for watching episode number 14. Today we are continuing to work through our WrestleMania picks. We are 8 days away from WrestleMania 41. Things are finally starting to shape up on the card. I believe we have at least 10, if not 11 matches that are officially announced as we record before Friday Night SmackDown. If you've been watching this series, we devoted just one episode 2 weeks ago to one of the most anticipated triple threats in recent memory, and then touched on all the main title belts last week. If you haven't watched those, please go back and watch them for our thoughts after you've gotten through this episode. They'll also be linked at the end of this episode and down below. With that, gotta welcome in Tyler. I appreciate Tyler coming back in today. Great to have him as always. He's basically the mainstay. I don't know if I've already done an episode without him at this point, but Tyler, it's great to have you back with us. I'm excited for some more WrestleMania picks today.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's WrestleMania season. Catering gets more expensive, so I gotta take advantage of it.
Hey, it's only one of you today, so that's a less for Bill today. It's only one of you, so.
Oh, dang it! You always do this to me. It's always last minute. He brings me in. He suckers me in with the promise of wonderful things, and then just never. No. It's obviously always great to be here, man, and just happy to be able to talk wrestling with you, and I'm excited for what we're going to be talking about today. I've thought about some of these questions a lot. Some of them I wish I didn't think about them, but we're going to go through all of them regardless. It's going to be great.
I wonder which one you don't really didn't think about a lot. Well, I think people will know, but we'll get there. I'm kind of in the same boat. This week kind of going with the theme of legends, both present and hopefully future legends. Only 2 title matches we're going to talk about today, the men's U.S. Championship and the men's Intercontinental title. On the non-title side, we'll be digging into a possible legend on the women's side. We talk about Jade Cargill and Naomi. We got to talk about Randy Orton. We just heard the news with him and Kevin Owens. And we're going to touch on the most recent match announced, the sudden surprise match between Rey Mysterio and El Grande Americano. We'll go with that for now. And I think
Get it right, Dan. Get it right.
Get it right. Yeah, it's El Grande Americano. But first, in a Legends theme, we have to talk about the legend killer Randy Orton. My biggest question right now is for Randy if he still gets a match on the card or not this year. It was really unfortunate that Kevin Owens had to come out and say he can't wrestle. I have to have neck surgery. I even texted to you and the other guys too. I'm like, part of me thinks this would be the perfect work for a guy like Kevin Owens. Like, I really, truly feel like. I don't think it is. But at the same time, like, something like this that would be a work for a moment like this, like, KO would be, like, the perfect guy to pull something like this off, I feel. Especially with this feud. But I know, I'm fairly certain it's not going to be, but I think it would be very interesting if it all of a sudden went that direction just to give us all a really big swerve. So kind of something that I was really wanting to kind of really dig into with this match, if Randy does still get a match at WrestleMania, who's a good matchup for him? So who'd you pick for a surprise wrestler coming out for Randy Orton at Mania if Randy gets a match?
Yeah, so obviously, first of all, I think it goes without saying that I feel terrible for KO. Obviously, Dan, anybody who's been following you and I for the last year plus, been doing these sorts of ordeals on my podcast and yours, knows how big of a fan of Kevin Owens I am.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those guys that I really just connect with more than others. And he's had, I would argue, the best year of his career. this year, and it's just a shame that, Tommaso Ciampa-esque in NXT a few years ago, right when you're going to get to the biggest match of your career, probably, or at least one of them, to kind of payoff, that reward. You're going to be wrestling Randy Orton on the grand stage of them all, and in my opinion, probably winning that match as well. You have to go get neck surgery, and it just really sucks. So we wish a speedy recovery for Kevin, and I hope one day he can get back into a ring and keep entertaining the fans. But at the very least, that he just gets back to 100% health to take care of his family. That's the most important thing. Now, on to your question. So, with this match, or theoretical match, I am looking at it as a complete one-off experience. I'm looking at it as we won't know who Randy Orton's opponent is until they walk out at WrestleMania. No idea who it is. No build. Just have to go out there and wrestle Randy Orton at WrestleMania. For anybody, it would be a big deal. But for certain people, it would be an even bigger deal. And what I mean by that is, I think you should look into NXT. You should have an NXT superstar come in, one-off, have their first main roster match in front of a WrestleMania crowd with Randy Orton. This person would not have to win in that circumstance. They're playing with house money at that point. It does not matter what happens to them.
Yep.
They could lose in 5 minutes, and you wouldn't really want them to lose in 5 minutes, but they could, and it wouldn't hurt them too badly, presumably. So there are two options. I'm going to give you the option that my heart wants and the option that my head wants. Okay, so there's two options. My heart wants Ricky Sainz, the NXT North American champion. He is a superstar already. For those of you who are not familiar with NXT, please go watch NXT. It is some of the best wrestling television on planet Earth right now. They have phenomenal talent, and the women's division is the best on planet Earth, and I will die on that hill. Better than Raw and SmackDown. I'm telling you right now. It just is. And that's no slight or knock on anybody. It's just how good it is. So Ricky Sainz, obviously formerly Ricky Starks in AEW, if you're familiar with that name. He's the NXT North American champion right now. He walks into a building and he's a superstar. He already is. He's only had a few matches in NXT, and he's already arguably the most popular guy in that locker room already. So I think him debuting at WrestleMania, he's a name that a lot of people would know, but a lot of people wouldn't. I think that's a good mix of, oh, I love this guy. Yes, so cool. We're seeing Ricky Sainz. And who's this guy? Oh, this guy seems like he's got a lot of charisma. Oh, he's from NXT. He's got the championship. This will be fun. Give him a good match. He doesn't have to beat Randy Orton, and then he goes right back down to NXT, and we're good. So that's what my heart wants. What my head says is, who is a guy that will have a great match with Randy Orton, that does not need a match with Randy Orton, but that immediately, when somebody looks at him, even if you've never heard of this guy before, watch him wrestle, and he will stand out. He will wow that crowd like nobody's business. Who is that guy? Well, it's somebody that's actually already had a match with Randy Orton in their career. This boy is bouncy. Javon Evans is my head pick to take on Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Why? He is 19 years old, or maybe at this point he's turned 20 recently. He's so young. His theme song tells you everything you need to know in the first 5 seconds. Yo, boy is bouncy. That's all you need to know. He is one of the most athletically gifted human beings walking planet Earth. He does not need to cut a promo. He does not need to win the match. He's going to go out there and show you how athletic he is on the biggest stage of them all. And I'll imagine he's in NXT for 2, 3, 4, however many more years until they call him up. You have something that you can say that he wrestled Randy Orton and took him to the limit, not once, but twice, and once at WrestleMania. And he's 23 years old, or he's 24 years old, or he's 22 years old, or whenever he gets called up, right? I think logically, with my head, that makes the most sense. And we already know Randy Orton likes him. Randy Orton trusts him. You already kind of know what you're going to get because they've had the match before. So that would be, if I had to pick one guy today, Javon Evans.
Yeah, that was honestly a name that probably popped in my head. I feel like any of the names at the top of the main card on NXT, or top of the men's card on NXT, because the NXT North American title is being treated, I think, very almost not, maybe not even with the NXT title, but I feel like just the caliber of guys with Ethan Page and Ricky Saints being around that title scene, and then you got Javon Evans with Trick and Oba. Like, I feel like both those titles are a little more equal than maybe in recent memory,
Oh yeah,
in my opinion. Um,
agreed.
so I feel like you go with any of them. Sean Spears. I feel like I don't know if there's really a name you couldn't go with from NXT. I think that'd work. I really like the Javon Evans there. Again, they've had the match before. Do it again, and this time in front of tens of thousands of people instead of just a few thousand people. I thought it would be kind of funny to have, like, Stone Cold's supposed to be around this week. If you want to still make sure Randy gets a stunner, you could do a weird spot with Stone Cold. But then
Do something.
I didn't really want to go down that train of thought, so I kind of ended that train of thought quickly. Aldis took the RKO, so I mean, Aldis has always looked in to be in ring shape, in ring shape, I should say. So I mean, I you could have a little something there. I don't know. That seems a little odd to me though, because I don't know like what's really at stake. Do you really want your SmackDown GM going to do that? What's the point for both of them? Yay, I guess. I wouldn't think it'd be bad, but just to give. But I think that's almost kind of a cop out to give something for Randy to do. One name that popped to mind, and we've talked about it before, and I'm actually very curious. I haven't really picked someone for this, honestly. I'm still kind of ruin my head, so I don't know if I'll even have anybody picked by the end of this episode. But what about someone like Aleister Black if he didn't go the NXT route? I mean, I feel like what a way to bring him back, knowing that he's supposedly signed. What a way to bring him back to not right at WrestleMania.
Yeah, for sure. That's something I definitely would not mind. But there's two things that make me pause on that, right? Um, Number one is it's a little bit more inflexible than if you were to call up an NXT superstar, because Aleister Black re-debuting at WrestleMania, taking on Randy Orton, is not playing with house money, because you are now saying this re-debut, this return to the company is arguably one of the biggest in the company's history,
Hmm.
because you're putting it up there with Cody Rhodes. You're
Yeah.
putting it up there with anybody else who's returned at WrestleMania. I mean,
Hmm.
you return at WrestleMania after years away, you're a big deal.
Yeah.
That's the way it
Yeah.
works. So that's a lot of pressure to put on Aleister Black. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't handle it. I'm just saying if you do that with an NXT superstar, you don't have to worry about that pressure.
Right.
And
Right.
number two, you already have the plan, at least presumably what the dirt sheets, as Wade Barrett calls them, are saying, that he's going to debut the Friday Night SmackDown after WrestleMania. Triple H does not seem like the kind of guy that's going to take a perfectly laid out plan for somebody and change it up because something else that had nothing to do with them in the first place got screwed up. So I don't think Triple H would move that around unless it's absolutely necessary to move that around.
Mhm.
So if you're going to debut him on the Friday Night SmackDown afterwards, if that's what you want to do, what you could do is have him take on Javon Evans and then debut him attacking Randy Orton the next Friday. If you want him to go into a feud with Randy right away, which would be a big gamble, but you could do it,
Mhm.
then I would do it that way. I don't know if I would necessarily love. He'd have to win. He would 100% have to beat Randy. If he debuts after all this hype and all this time away and loses to Randy Orton,
Right.
like, that's not good. Like, he's dead in the water at that point. Nobody's
Right.
going to take him seriously. So he has to win. So it's just a lot more pressure than you would instead of an NXT guy. Wouldn't hate it by any stretch as long as he wins. Like, if he debuts against Randy Orton at WrestleMania and kicks his head off and pins Randy Orton in front of 50,000 people in his first match back in the company, you will not find a human being on earth happier than me. I can promise you that. I will be so excited. I will be so excited. I'll be like, see, I told you this guy's going to be a world champion in what I say, in a year or 2 years, whatever I said.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, like, this guy's legit, right? You wouldn't find anybody happier. I just don't think it's worth the risk.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. Yeah. No, I'm really liking the Javon Evans idea. I think Starks would be, again, NXT is probably the way to go, just because there's a lot of good talent there. Again, Sean, um, Ethan Page. Again, a lot of good talent to choose from. You can still keep them in the programs they are, and we've seen talent be changed between brands up and down before. They're all going to be in town, so it'd be pretty easy for them
Oh
to
yeah.
do it. And
Yeah, and before we move on, the one other thing that I do want to say is, like, another reason why I think NXT would make sense is because it's just going to be the biggest deal for anybody who you do that for if they're in NXT. Sure, you can do like Andrade and that'd be a fun match, or you could do Carmelo Hayes and that'd be a fun match, or you can put any younger guy on the main roster already. That would be a fun match. Or you could bring back a legend, and that would be a fun match too. Like you said, I mean, honestly, if it was Stone Cold, I'd be like, what? Like that would be so cool. Like that'd be a
what?
crazy moment. What? That'd be a crazy moment. But I think it would just you would, I think, get the most positive benefit for the wrestler if you did it for somebody in NXT. Now, again, if it's going to be Stone Cold, that's obviously going to be the most talked about moment. I don't think that's even close. But I think that you can turn a really crummy situation for Kevin Owens into a really amazing situation, a really positive situation for somebody else. You can take a negative, turn it into a positive. And I
Yeah.
think you do that the best if you take up somebody from NXT.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely with you there. So hopefully Randy gets a match. You're pretty much on this you're pretty much on the side. Randy will still get a match, right?
Yeah, I do believe he will. I don't see a world where Randy Orton misses WrestleMania if he's healthy, because he's Randy Orton. That's like The Undertaker or John Cena missing a WrestleMania if he's completely healthy and still a full-time wrestler. Like, when John Cena was a full-time wrestler, he wasn't missing WrestleMania. Like, yeah, when he was a part-time wrestler, sure, he was missing it, but
Right.
sometimes, but not when he was full-time. Randy Orton's still full-time. So, maybe this is where you transition out of that. I don't know. I don't think Randy would do that yet, but maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't think that if you have a healthy Randy Orton on your roster, just because somebody else got hurt, I don't think you could punish Randy and just take him off the card. I think you got to do something else.
Right. Is his son old enough to wrestle yet?
Is it what? I'm sorry.
Is his son old enough to wrestle yet?
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
I mean, I think
Miles Bourne in NXT, you mean? I don't think he's ready for that spotlight yet, maybe. I don't think so. You might not know that inside joke. So Miles Bourne for No Quarter Catch Crew, he reminds everybody of Randy Orton, the NXT crowd.
Well, speaking of possible Randy match or not a Randy match, I'm kind of on the fence still there. But speaking of that, let's move to our next topic of Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. This was announced pretty suddenly after the match on Raw between LWO and the Creed brothers. Just because, and Ray just went to Pierce and was like, "I'm unhappy. I want El Grande Americano at WrestleMania." And Pierce is like, "Okay, sure, let's do it." So like my immediate thought went to Friday of, well, Randy just doesn't have a match anymore. Will he actually have a match at WrestleMania? So that's kind of what I was, So you kind of already answered that, but I'll just kind of go through this. My whole topic around more of Ray and El Grande Americano is more of like, how does this affect the card? Like, does this mean Randy's not getting a match, or maybe this is a sign that Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest don't get a match on the card? Do you have any thoughts on like how this could affect the card, or do you think it was just, hey, we do have the room, let's just put this on the card?
Yeah, I don't think this affects the card at all. From the reports that I've been seeing and from what I've been hearing from people that are there, I think the plan right now is anywhere from 14 to 15 matches for the 2 nights. So probably looking at 7 or 8 on Saturday and then 7 on Sunday. Um, so if that's the case, then I think right now there's been 10 announced,
Yeah, I think 10.
including
Yep.
the Ray and the Chad Gable match. So that means you still got room for 5 more.
All
So
right.
you still got plenty of room for Drew and Damian. You still got plenty of room for the women's tag titles.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to add a couple of more in there, you can. The Randy match getting added last
Right.
minute. You still got plenty. Now, I don't think the Rey Mysterio versus Chad Gable match. Oh, I'm sorry. The El Grande Americano match.
Choose Chad Gable. I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, they are two different people from what people on
That's
the
all we
internet
know. It's two
sleuths,
different people. Yep.
the detectives on the internet are saying. Yeah, that's what I'm told. Um, I don't have any information on that at all. Actually, not even a little bit.
Nope. Nothing on this podcast. Nope.
But yeah, so I don't think it's affecting the card at all. That's the point. Is I think this was the plan the whole time for some reason. We'll get more of that when you ask me the question, but yeah, that's my answer. I don't think
Yeah.
it's affecting the card at all.
Yeah, when we were kind of talking before the record, when you said 14 or 15, I was like, okay, maybe this is, I got makes me a little happier that we're probably going to definitely get a Randy match still, and hopefully we still get that Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest, and maybe not because we haven't really seen them kind of meet for the last couple of weeks, but that's a match I'm still kind
Right.
of holding out hope for. That seemed to be like an early front runner for a non-title match, and I almost thought we had it. I almost thought it was official at one point, but I couldn't find anything. So, um, but yeah, the match itself. I, I honestly don't know what to think about this. El Grande Americano, I think, is an interesting choice. I feel we are he's kind of being decently received, but then I also know he's also creating controversy. What do you think about this match? Where do you think this is gonna go?
So I'm more of a wrestling purist, right? I try to obviously I work or not work, but I volunteer in the industry, right? I don't get paid or anything. I'm with the NXT Student Initiative. So I'm at a lot of the NXT shows. I'm at a lot of the NXT live events. I meet a lot of the talent. I'm getting to know a lot of the talent. Obviously, a lot of people that just work in the industry. Man, they all care about the wrestling industry so much. I mean, there's people that are backstage fighting every single day to get better and to entertain people and to uphold the honor of being a performer for everybody, including me. Um, and when I see obviously, I don't have a problem with the gimmick. I think the gimmick is a creative gimmick, obviously. They're trying to do something fun and different and entertaining with Chad Gable. I don't mind that at all. So don't take me saying this as I hate El Grande Americano and everything he said. I understand what they're going for. It's a parody on Lucha Libre, and that's fine if you don't go so far with it as to actually start messing with Lucha Libre. And he's already unmasked somebody, which is a big no-no. Like, that's a big no-no. You don't
Yeah,
do that.
Dragon Lee, right?
Yeah, he's already unmasked Dragon Lee, which, listen, poor Dragon Lee at this point. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with Dragon Lee. That's a whole nother conversation. But let me tell you, what bugs me about this, and it does bug me, I don't like it, is the fact that you have the greatest luchador of all time who's on some of his last years, guys. He's in his 50s. He's not going to be around much longer. Wrestling a fake luchador at WrestleMania. And everybody's just like, yay! Like, he's the greatest. Do you have any idea how much Rey Mysterio has done for Lucha Libre? How mainstream he made Lucha Libre? How he broke the door down for all the amazing lucha wrestlers that we've seen over the years, even the ones that didn't end up amounting to a whole lot, like your Sin Caras, right? Like, we don't get Sin Cara without Rey Mysterio, or Kalisto without Rey Mysterio, or Penta, or Rey Fenix now
Hmm.
without Rey Mysterio. He's done so much for Lucha Libre, and it makes me sick to think that there's a legitimate possibility that a dude is going to just put on a mask and beat the greatest luchador of all time in front of 50,000 people by being a fake luchador and making fun of luchadors. Like, that bugs me. And I don't know if that bugs anybody else. I might be in the minority on that. I don't know. But as like somebody who genuinely cares about this business like me, it just bugs me a twinge. Now, at the end of the day, it is Rey Mysterio's call. And I would venture to guess he's not getting put into these creative meetings and going, "What? I have to wrestle this stupid fake luchador? I don't want, you know what? This company sucks. I don't want to do." No, he's probably asking them to wrestle him. So if Ray doesn't have a problem with it, then I guess I won't have a problem with it either. I just hope for the sake of everything that is holy and sacred when it comes to Lucha Libre that Rey Mysterio wins. That's all I would. I would like Rey Mysterio to win, please. If that's how it ends, and Chad Gable gets unmasked at the end, and it's all for hee-hees and ha-has and all that stuff, then great. But if Chad Gable unmasks Rey Mysterio and pins him at WrestleMania and goes, "Yeah, gracias," I'd be like, Lucha Libre's dead. I hate my life. Like, this is nothing sacred in this world anymore. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I feel like you could run into some potential bad PR for WWE in a way if this doesn't go the right way. Like I feel obviously we're going to see the Creed brothers and LWO come out and interfere in this match. That's a given. You know that's just a given. Just considering the small program that they've had with between them for the last month or so.
Mhm.
Um, Even before we really got El Grande Americano. You know, but yeah, I'm with you there. Like I feel like Ray has to win here. I could see because of the interference that Ray loses but it's again like okay, El Grande Americano could win, but it's like we can't have another Dragon Lee incident where you're pulling the mask off of Ray. You know, Dragon Lee's kind of one thing where yeah, it's still not kosher, it's still not great to see that when that happened. I was like, whoa, that's not you don't do that. Like even Dominic probably wouldn't even go that far. Well, maybe he would because he's Dominic, but I don't know if even Dominic would go that far. um,
Right.
so it's just like, okay, just don't do that WrestleMania in front of tens of thousands of people and even hundreds of millions more watching across the world. Where it's like to me they're treading
Yeah.
in dangerous waters here. It's I could see for the sake of story to kind of continue the story where El Grande Americano, Chad Gable, Creed Brothers, all of them do pull off a victory here because of stuff. But again, if they do it better be because Ray is just lost to the numbers game, and that's it. Not no masks thing, no quick roll up, anything like that. It's just numbers game got to him, which would be weird because LWO has one extra member than that American
Yeah.
made, but it's
Yeah.
Dragon Lee and LWO basically. So
Yeah. For sure.
so
No,
yeah,
I can get behind that.
yeah. So but my pick would still be Ray here, but I could see it going either way. Honestly,
Yeah.
just it has to be done right, like you're kind of saying. So, we'll see. Let's move on from El Grande Americano and get to one of the title matches, the men's U.S. Championship. Honestly, a few weeks ago, and I even said, and I think on one of my own episodes, I did that. I was really hoping that the U.S. title would be more of a one-on-one match. It didn't seem like, um, it didn't. It seemed like there were people around the title. Shinsuke was kind of around. Lost it back to LA Knight, so you kind of had some options for LA Knight. I've liked how they developed the story. Obviously, we're getting kind of this new bloodline, had been fractured as well with Fatu and Solo. So I'm happy to see. But it seemed like there for a little bit that they might go multi-man match here because Braun Strowman's in this picture. You can always bring Shinsuke back in. You got Carmelo that's not really doing anything. So you could have made this a fun multi-man match, I think, and I think that's what some rumors were happening. But I'm honestly glad to see this as a one-on-one match, LA Knight versus Fatu, and I think this is a easiest pick. We were talking about last week with Chris. There's some matches you can kind of bank on the winner. Like it's a pretty take it to the bank bet. This isn't going to probably change. This falls in that category. There's to me there's only one winner here. I don't know about you.
I actually don't feel that way. I feel like that it can honestly go either way because I think they may pull the trigger on the Solo and Fatu feud, and it may be where Solo costs Jacob the match.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised because I feel like now I will admit since I was at an NXT live event last week during Friday Night SmackDown, I did not get to see all of the show. I only saw the highlights and bits and pieces of it. So there's possible context that I've missed. From what I understand, Solo was angry at Jacob for taking this opportunity. Solo wanted the opportunity and Jacob took it from him. So if that's true, and again, I could be wrong. Like I said, I didn't watch the show because I was at another live event. But if that's the case, then I can venture to see a point where Fatu's going to win and Solo costs him. And that's the start of their feud. Will that happen on, whatever day they wrestle, the first night or the second? I don't know. It might not. And if that's the case, if there's no shenanigans, then absolutely the choice is clear. Jacob Fatu should get his big moment at WrestleMania. He has gotten over with the fans like crazy. LA Knight does not need this championship. Plus, no matter what happens, the world title picture is going to need some more bodies at this point. And I think LA Knight has more than earned another shot at it, whether it's Cody, whether it's John, whether he moves to Raw and he starts challenging Jey Uso or Gunther or whoever it may be. I think LA Knight does not need to be in the mid card anymore. So if there's no shenanigans, obviously Fatu's the choice. But I could see a world where Solo costs Fatu the match and starts their feud.
Yeah. So you're going with Fatu here then? Is that your
No,
official?
yeah, I am going with Fatu. I am. Like, if I had to pick, like, gun to my head, had to pick right now, obviously I'd go Fatu, but I'm just saying
thumb to
I
throat
could
here
see
in
a
this
world.
case. Thumb to throat
Yeah,
here in this
thumb
case.
on the throat. Yeah, well, if it's thumb on the throat, dude, I don't. If Solo hates Jacob right now, then I'm a thumb on the throat. I might go LA Knight just to get Solo away from me. But no, obviously there's just an outsider shot that they pull the trigger on that
Yeah.
feud right now. But I don't think they will because Triple H isn't that kind of guy that like pays off every single twist turn all in like one
Right.
pay-per-view, even if it's the biggest thing. He's gonna have to save some stories to be elongated. And I think this is one of those that's gonna be a little bit more longer term down the road. So I think Fatu's your guy right now.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely all aboard the Jacob Fatu train. I mean, the guy is a menace. It's almost like, it's like
Fatu.
oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Back on track here. Ugh. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm ashamed of myself. I have to go with Fatu here. I think this title. I think I like before I go again, train of thought of saying an interference could kick off the feud between Solo and Fatu, but I also feel like a title win for Fatu could kick that off as well. I feel you could
Oh yeah. Fair enough.
or where you can build to it where they have a match at SummerSlam. Braun Strowman's right there. Fatu wins. LA Knight gets his rematch, loses the rematch. Braun Strowman's right there to have one or two matches with Fatu because we haven't really even finished that rivalry either. And then you can move on to Solo, where Solo's kind of like, okay, good job, guy, but slowly dissolves more and more. I feel as over, and I'm kind of taking this from other podcast guys that we both listen to. But I definitely agree with him in the sense of we need to eventually move Fatu to a face or more of a tweener because the man is, like you said, he's just massively over. I think he could honestly surpass some of the greats within the bloodline, and I'm including Rock and Roman in that. I don't think either of us would be surprised if we were to get like Fatu and Braun Breaker at WrestleMania 43 for one of the main events. I mean, like 2 years from now, that could those are the two future legends where I'm kind of talking about here, two next faces, here. So I feel like as simple as like I was kind of thinking this conversation was going, the more I've been thinking about it too, it's like this if people haven't seen Fatu, if they haven't seen what he can do on live TV at Saturday Night's Main Event from a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago now, they will get to see it here. This will be the ultimate coming out party for those, and I know a lot of guys have followed him from the Indies. I know he's got a really good following from there, and I think that's just increased. I mean, the pop up Samoan drop. That's the slickest move I feel in wrestling. One of the slickest moves in wrestling right now. Just picks him up and boom, just right off. He moonsaults off the top rope. He doesn't look like he should be able to do it, and he just amazing athlete. Like,
oh yeah, it's unbelievable what he can do.
It's crazy. So my pick is definitely Fatu here, but I think there's a possibility where if they do want to kickstart the Solo and Fatu feud quicker, where like Solo could cost him, could cost him the match. So either way there, but yeah, I'm definitely with Fatu on this one. On the women's side, we do have one women's match for this week's episode. We have a great grudge match here between Jade Cargill and Naomi. I feel like this match should showcase both women well. I feel Naomi's done well in her return to WWE in the last. She's been back in WWE almost a year and a half now. I think last year's Rumble is when she came back. But I feel like she's been a lot more prominent, a little more used, not quite as forgotten as much, especially in the last 6-9 months. And obviously Jade seems healthy, whatever break she got there. So I feel like this could really show us the force that she can be. Obviously, we got to see her at last year's Mania, in a tag match, but this being a singles match, I feel like this almost needs to be a nice showcase for her, or it could doom trouble for her. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this match? Do you think this match ends this feud? And who do you have winning the match?
So I know you said that the Fatu LA Knight match was your easiest pick of this whole thing. This is mine. Jade Cargill is going to go out there and beat Naomi to death. That's going to be how this match goes, and that's it. I don't think there's any other option. Is there an outsider's chance that Bianca comes in and reveals herself to be a second attacker, costs Jade the match, Naomi wins, continues the feud that way? Yes. But I think because Bianca has such a big match, I don't think you do that at WrestleMania. I think, if anything, you do that on the Friday Night SmackDown afterwards, or you do it at the next PLE, or you do it a little while down the road, whatever it is, right? You just do that down the road if that's the direction. That may not be the direction. They may say that Bianca had nothing to do with it, and then she moves on. I don't see it, but maybe they will. So, to answer your second question, is this the end of the feud? No, I do not think it is. I think Jade wins, and I think the feud evolves where Jade is now feuding with Bianca and Naomi. Whether that reveal happens right at WrestleMania or whether that happens shortly after, I don't know, but I don't think this is the end of the feud. I do think it turns into a slightly different feud. I think it has a different feel, where now that original catharsis that Jade was looking for of this woman attacked me and cost me months of my career, I've just got my revenge, I'm done, we're good. I think that part's over, and then you're going to move on to other things within that story now. But I think, again, I think this is the easiest one for me. I think Jade's going over. It's her first singles match. Is it her first singles match on a pay-per-view? Am I tripping? I don't think that's wrong.
No, I think you're correct there. I think that
I'm right.
this is her first big singles event. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
she's got to win.
I guess she had some with her debut. She had some singles matches on that were televised. Because I was going to even go that far, but no, she's had some singles matches prior to this.
She's had a couple of singles match, one against Chelsea Green, and
that's right.
Maybe one or two others, but yeah. So
I know that
one. I know it's not her first singles match, period, but it's her. I think it's her first singles match on a PLE, and it's at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
I think you're saying she's a big deal. This is it. We're going with it.
Yep.
I think you got to pull the trigger on Jade at this point. She's already been in the company for, by the way, she debuted the same night Naomi did. Jade has also been in the company for a year and a half.
That's right.
So
yep.
At this point, pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Do what everybody knows you're going to do. Make Jade a big star. Let's get after it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think she could seriously be another one of those legends among the women's wrestling on any organization. And I mean, she already was heralded coming from AEW. So yeah, this almost has to be a big showcase for her, I feel. If not, why'd you make such a big deal about bringing her in by signing her? So I feel like, yeah, she has to go over here. You're probably right. This probably actually is the easier pick of any match that we're talking about today. And all of them, honestly. It should be Jade. It probably will be Jade. That's my pick. That is, and Naomi seems like a really good opponent for her to be able to be showcased on such a big stage. Naomi's been there. She's been around, and I mean they both have, but I feel like there's still some rawness to Jade at first, and we saw it. I think the astute minds really really saw it, and I'm kind of hoping that the break that she was out really helped her to hone in on some stuff, and we should hopefully get good evidence of that come WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah.
So last but certainly not least, especially with one of the gentlemen involved in this match, let's talk about the Intercontinental title. But first, we need to pause for Carlito and remember Carlito. Okay, poor Carlito. That was a vicious, entertaining spear. Like, that was a shoulder tackle almost more than a spear. Like, whoop.
Yeah, that I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be surprised if on Monday we tuned in to Raw and Carlito was bald, because I'm fairly certain I saw his afro fly off of his body and go into the 5th row. I'm pretty sure I saw
Only the
that.
5th row?
I mean, well, he was kind of standing like in the like on the other side. So it
Sure.
flew actually all the way across the arena to the other 5th row
Other
on
5th
the
row.
other
Got
side
it.
of it.
Got it.
Yeah, on the other side of the ring. It was unbelievable. I never seen anything. It was like a football. It just went. It just kept going. Bert Kreischer grabbed it and ran around with it. It was a whole thing.
He added some all of it, even more of his chest hair with that afro.
Yes, he just duct taped it right here and just yeah.
Oh man,
Just
how quickly we
Superman
go
it
off the rails here. How quickly we go off the rails.
It doesn't take much.
No, it doesn't. We need the other guys to keep us in check more.
Yeah, pretty much. Mostly me, but
Yeah.
thanks for joining in.
We gotta have some fun with this somehow. Well, anyway, the Intercontinental title scene is officially a fatal 4-way. It was almost kind of like a blink and you missed it moment graphic and announcement right at the beginning of Raw. I was kind of like, wait, I rewound really quick. I'm like, they just announced
Yeah.
this. Really? I mean, I think, you kind of indicated this, I think either on the last pod or between records or whatever. So, kudos to, being
Yeah.
with that and stuff. I was definitely on the train of like, I was kind of really hoping way back, middle of March, end of March, before we even got Logan Paul just Styles considered like having a match together. That a ladder match, 6 or 7 man ladder match would have been awesome with the IC title.
I agree.
We haven't had that on a WrestleMania in 9 or 10 years, I believe. If I have that correctly, you can fact check me. I know you probably have a better history of that in your mind than I do, but and
Last
31.
one I remember was won by Zack Ryder, and I don't
Yep.
remember what year
That
that
was-
was.
It was Mania 32. I know that.
So that would have been 9 years ago.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think the year before I had a really epic ladder match too with some guys that
Daniel Bryan won that one, I believe.
yeah.
Yes.
So we have I had kind of seen some other stuff that people were kind of wishing for that, and I was like, yeah, I can get on the board with that. And we have the 4 that are in the fatal 4-way right now. And then you throw in Styles and Logan, and even the 7 if you wanted. You could have been Sheamus or Kaiser. You could have easily come up with 7 people and probably had could have probably even argued 1 or 2 more that could have been that left out, because I feel like a lot of people have been I've cross feuding with a lot of people, and a lot of those cross feuds have involved in an Intercontinental title. So I was kind of with that a long time ago. I'm not disappointed with the fatal 4-way. I think we have some really good converging storylines all around. First couple of questions, kind of a 4-part question here. The first 2, who's your pick to win, and who takes the pin here?
Okay, who do I pick to win and who takes the pin? So we move from the easiest pick of this whole thing to, in my opinion, the hardest, because I can sit here and make an argument that all 4 men should win this match, just based on the story that's being told, the Judgment Day tension that we have right now. I could very easily see the IC title being the figurative straw that breaks the camel's back, to use a metaphor or a cliche, to use a cliche there. I think, again, thumb to my throat, right? Like, threaten, got to pick somebody. I think Breaker's going to retain. If I had to pick one, the majority right now, but brother, there is a legitimate argument I can make for Dominic winning this match. Like, Finn about to win it. He's like, oh my God, I'm going to pin, like, he's going to pin like Penta or pin Breaker. I'm going to win the Dominic just comes in, throws him out of the ring real quick. 1, 2, 3. Like, everybody boos maniacally because Dom went right. And then not necessarily completely in reverse, but like kind of Finn does a little bit of the same thing, costs Dom the match, then wins it himself, then play like, I got it. And of course that drives further wedge with Liv and with Dom, and he's being selfish. I could see both that. Obviously, I could see Braun Breaker retaining and moving on to face your AJ Styles, your Logan Pauls, your Sheamus. Well, maybe not one-on-one with Sheamus again. We've seen that like 7 times already, but I could see that. That's the choice I think you should make. I think you should give the young fella a big win at WrestleMania. I think that works. And then maybe you reward the hot new guy that's selling all the merch, that's over. Make a big moment. Penta wins the IC title at WrestleMania. Like, big moment, right? I can make a legitimate argument for all 4, but if I had to pick one, I'm going with Breaker retains here. I don't love it. I would love it, obviously, just because I'm a big Breaker fan. But like, I don't love that that's the choice that I'm making, because I could just see it going any of the 4 ways. Who takes the pin? If my story lines up correctly, Finn Balor would take the pin, because the story I would tell to make it work is just leave Penta out of this, right? Penta doesn't need to be involved in the pin. He could just be outside, gets the showcase match at Mania. He does well for himself, does a bunch of great, cool moves. And then, he's not involved. I would have, at some point in the match, Dominic be about to steal it. Finn breaks up the pin. They get into a little bit of a shouting match. It gets broken up later on. Finn is definitively gonna pin Penta to get the championship. Coup de grace, visual pin, 1, 2, Dom breaks it up. Like, this was Finn's moment. He was gonna win. Dom says, nope, and that just sends Finn over the edge. They get eye to eye, they get nose to nose. Dominic looks behind him, shoves Breaker or shoves Finn. They both get speared. Penta, obviously, at this point, has now rolled out of the ring. Dominic goes flying out of the ring. Finn's the only one left. Another spear, 1, 2, 3. That's how I would do it, just logistically speaking. If that all happens exactly the way I tell it, by the way, I need a raise. And by that, I mean just $1, because I don't make anything.
Yeah, I can't.
But like that's the way I'm envisioning it, most likely going in my head, to kind of pay off all the stories. And like, they both cost each other the IC title. And if you want short-term booking, then they start turning on each other right from there. Basically the next night, or not the next night, but the next Monday. And then if you want long-term, then it's like, oh, we got to figure this out, man. We got to put our differences aside. This is getting ridiculous. I was a hothead. No, I was a hothead. I love you, Dom. I love you too, right? Like, it could be a whole thing. Or maybe they're feuding, and then JD comes back and, kind of gets them all on the same page, and then we go in a different, whatever it is, right? So that's kind of how I envision it.
Yeah.
What about you, Dan?
Honestly, some of the same beats, just different players. I'm with you. I feel you can make arguments for a lot of these guys. I hadn't really thought about, from Dom's perspective, but the heat he would get for winning, in such a bad guy heelish way would actually work out really well for him. And we haven't seen him really ever. We haven't, we're like slowly starting to see him, I think, compete more and more for titles, be in some bigger profile matches. And I think he's a lot of that's just because he's been learning. I feel like, he's been in so much storylines or story adjacent to not necessarily wrestling so much, to where, as much as we love to hate on him, like, he's can be pretty good in the ring. I mean, I feel like as much as this match could be a showcase for Penta, like, we might get a little bit more of a showcase for Dominic. And I can't believe I'm saying that. on this podcast. So people can clip this and
Yeah.
say point this back at me when it's like, well, you ate him, but you said this anyway. So yeah, Finn, he hasn't had a championship in forever. He hasn't had a
Mhm.
championship since he's been back up in the main roster, so that would be so perfect for him to get that. But Dirty Dom is going to stand in his way. I hate picking against Braun Breaker here, but I am not picking Braun Breaker. I am taking Penta, and kind of what you said.
Understandable.
It's the big moment. Give him the big moment here, and I think it could even kind of be similar to Jey Uso. Let him hold it for a month. Let him hold it for 6 weeks. Give it back. He can still have some good feuds with Braun. Maybe he gets another. I think you keep him in that picture for a while, to where maybe you trade it back and forth between a few wrestlers. I don't know, but I don't think you have to give him a long reign. But I think he'll be showcased the most in this match, no matter who wins it. But I'm taking Penta. Um, I think he pins Dominic. I kind of go the little bit of the opposite way you went, to where I feel Finn's gonna sense it coming, and he's gonna push Dominic in the way of Penta. Penta's gonna do that driver. I forget the name of his finisher off the top of my head. But he'll
The
take,
Penta driver.
yeah, Penta driver. He'll take the Penta driver instead of Finn, and 1, 2, 3. There, Penta's our winner. As Finn's trying to get up to break up the pin, Breaker can break Finn in half. But it's I'm taking Penta here, and I hate picking against Braun. We both have a lot of similar wrestlers that we love, and he is definitely one of the newer guys that we both just thoroughly enjoy. Again,
Sure.
R.I.P. Carlito. That was, I mean that gif is gonna just be playing, rent free in my head, as the kids say.
It's
um,
insane.
it's
Like Triple H was be sitting up there going, all right, like this is why I never understood like why Vince had such a hard time in the later years of getting guys over. Like sometimes I just sit here and go, wrestling is not hard. You sit in a room and go, what is he good at? Oh,
hmm
spearing dudes out of their shoes. Can we just have him do that? Like over and over again? Like, would that be fun?
yeah,
That's not a hard idea to come up with, in my opinion. I mean, honestly, I just came up with it in 2 seconds. That's all it took.
yep,
Just, hey, you want to spear somebody really hard and make it look awesome? Okay. Next week. Hey, do you want to spear somebody and make it look really awesome? Like that's basically what's happening every week.
yep,
Nothing else matters. It's those moments that are being created. And now people all around the world are like, who is this? It's
yep.
Braun Breaker. You
Eh,
better recognize the name because that guy's going to be a main event player in this company for the next 15 years.
yep,
You better know the name.
yep.
So,
Yeah, and maybe he'll adopt the Steiner last name at some point too. But I think by now, I think most people know that he's a Steiner anyway.
yeah.
It's just as in a world of social media, where short clips and just quick things that happen can go viral so quickly. Like he's just like you're saying, he's tailor made for that.
Yep.
I'm sure I could go search on YouTube right now and probably find dozens of videos that have a compilation of all of Breaker's spears.
Yep.
This year alone, we've seen him do it to Roman, I Show Speed, and now Carlito. Like, whew,
Yeah.
you know,
For sure. And getting back to the actual match and your pick. Look, I said look, completely understandable pick. I mean, I know I didn't harp on Penta the Penta situation as much as the other three. But yeah, I could totally see WWE going in that direction, and I would not mind that at all. I think Penta would certainly. I mean, obviously the guy's earned it. The guy's been battling for over 20 years in this industry to make it and to win the IC title at WrestleMania. Yeah. Is it a world title? No, but it's as close as you're going to get without winning the world title is winning the IC title, right?
right.
Like it's that, we got 1A, 1B, and then 1C is like the IC title. It's like definitively down here, but I mean, it's, you're well on your way. And, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a cheeky guy over here, but I mean, shoot, uh, he's also got Penta Oscuro in his back pocket that he could pull out at any time that WWE fans may not know about. And wouldn't we want to see the Demon versus Penta Oscuro at some point? I mean,
You're talking about the Dark
Demon
Penta
comes
that you've
out
shown
and then
me?
he just and Penta Oscuro rises up out of the freaking gravestone or whatever. You're just like, what is happening? Like, it's just gonna be
That's
a
the dark
mess.
version of Penta that you've told me about before, right? I think you sent me a YouTube clip
Yes,
of that
that
entrance. Yeah.
Penta Dark. Yeah. So it was
Him-
called Penta Dark in Lucha Underground and CMLL and all those other places, New Japan and all that. He didn't really do it much in New Japan. It was mostly Lucha Underground when he was a bad guy. And then he did it a couple of times in AEW, and it was called Penta Oscuro, which is just dark, I think. I'm pretty sure Oscuro just means dark in Spanish. I might be wrong on that. Please, my Spanish people that are watching this, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I'm pretty sure it just means dark in Spanish. So either way, Penta Dark, Penta Oscuro, it's the same thing.
Right.
So I mean, that'd be fun if you wanted to go that route for a minute and just have like Finn go nuts and just need the IC belt, and he brings out the Demon, but Penta's one step ahead of him, brings out Penta Dark, and Demon's like, what is happening? Like,
Crawls back to
just
the backstage. It's like,
yeah,
nope.
so yeah, or you could even do like like if you wanted to, you could have Finn like attack Penta over and over again, and it drives him nuts where he's like, damn it, I have to do something. And he brings out Penta Dark to just face Finn. Finn loses and he goes, oh, so you're gonna do that? Well, I'm gonna do that too. And then that's when you have that Clash of the Titans when they're both ready. And then if you want to put the title on Finn, you can. If you don't, I mean, at that point, I probably would. But regardless, there's so many different things. That's the point that you could do with Penta, and that's just one match that I would love to see. Obviously, all the matches that we named that we'd love to see Bron Breakker in. I mean, Penta versus AJ Styles, Penta versus Sheamus, Penta versus Logan Paul, Penta versus Sami Zayn. Like any of these matches, Penta versus Karrion Kross. Like just so many that you could name off the top of your head. And even with just a little bit more thinking, if anybody else comes over from AEW, that might maybe a big Russian guy who once came out in a tank. You could do that. I don't know if he'll be called Miro or Rusev again, but he's gonna be coming soon. We don't know when, but he's here. He's signed. He's ready to roll. So, whenever that happens is when that happens. But like anyway, the point is that I don't hate that pick at all. I would 100% love that. Just don't pin Breakker. Just have him lose the belt,
right?
And don't get pinned. Because I think Breakker just immediately moves up to the world title scene right away. Like I don't see why he needs to huddle around the IC title picture at this point.
Right.
He's clearly being shown as physically dominant in that division.
Yep.
Just move him up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he already has a good rivalry with Jay there. If Jay were to win the world heavyweight title or world heavyweight championship.
Oh yeah, I think that'd be great.
And
is Bron Breakker a good guy at this point? By the way,
I mean,
when did that happen?
He's. I feel like he's always been over with the crowd. So I feel
but he's always been like a bad guy though. That's over with the crowd, but now he's like kind of a good guy, I think. But when did that happen?
To me, he's like the perfect definition of a tweener. Like him, Rollins are like the perfect definition of a tweener. They can play whichever side they need to play for the story, and I feel like right now he's kind of both in the story because he's got to you got to have a face, you got to have a second face against two heels, but he's just so brutal and mean where it's like you can't really, his brutality and meanness is a heel. But he can, but the crowds love him, obviously. I mean, it's hard not to, when
for sure.
It's hard not to. If somebody out there
I
hates,
would venture to say it's honestly impossible not to.
If somebody out there hates Bron Breakker, I need to know why.
Yeah, like why? Like what
did he spear you?
Don't like? Like I don't understand. Like I've talked to people obviously, that didn't really know much about Bron Breakker, and now they're just like, dude, this guy's insane. Like he's so fast, he's so athletic. I'm like, yeah, I've been saying that since 2020, folks. Like I'm not new to this game. Like I've been on this train since I saw him for the first time kill LA Knight in NXT 2.0 on that first episode. I think that was 2020 or maybe it's 2021, whatever it was. Years I've been on this train. I'm like, guys, that whatever that specimen, whatever that species is that Bron Breakker is is gonna run this company one day. Like, you could see it, you could feel it. Anybody who watched NXT at that time knew that that's how the company felt about him. It was just a matter of when.
Yep.
And now is when.
Yep.
This guy is a freak.
And like I said, I mean, I still wholeheartedly, whether it's them against each other or one's representing the World Heavyweight Championship and one's representing the Universal title, like Fatu and Breaker are the two pillars for Raw and SmackDown, and then that will happen within the next 2 years. They will be two of the pillars.
Yeah, and certainly I'll throw Dragunov in there as well, in my opinion. I think he'll more run the undercard at the beginning. I think he'll be more that U.S. title, IC title kind of guy. That's
he'll be up there
that.
He'll be up there though.
But I mean, that guy's he's going to carry this thing into the future with the other guys as well.
Yep.
Tiny bit older than your Breakers. I think he's about 30, 29 to 30 now. So he's a touch older because I think Breaker's still only 26 or 27. But I mean, still 30 is in wrestling. 30 is like you're a baby.
Yeah, you really are. Really are.
Yeah.
So, well, Tyler, I think you kind of answered this question, I think, a little bit, but we're essentially kind of on the same page, I feel, of this, whether it's still drawn out over the next 6 months or it happens the next month or two. Like, this is going to be like whoever wins, whoever takes the pin, however it happens, this is pretty much going to be one more big nail in the coffin for Finn splitting away from Judgment Day, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be the definitive, like, Finn grabs a chair and hits Dominic in the back and fully, like, I'm out, like he did to Damian. Well, he didn't really do that you get the point. Like, that was definitive. But I think this is going to be a big step in that direction. Again, no matter how it ends up playing out specifically with who wins or who pins who. Excuse me. But that's why I could argue Finn could win this match because he could take the IC title and use that as further driving holes between him and the Judgment Day because he's going to be like, well, I'm the man. I did this. And Dominic's going to be like, brother, I did all the work. Like, you just stole it at the end because you're a doucher, right? And then Dominic could do the same thing. Dominic could be parading around with his hot girlfriend and her bodyguard, I guess. And Finn's just like, I hate these people. They all have titles and I don't. Like, it's good. Like, either way, I could see either of those happening too. But I think no matter if one of them win, if Penta wins, if Breaker wins, I think they're going to cost each other. They're going to fight each other. And that's going to just kind of drive the wedge. I think it's going to be a huge step forward in that, but I don't think it's going to be the final nail.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Tyler. Appreciate you joining me this week. That wraps it up for this week. I really appreciate all the takes and picks that we've had the last 3 weeks. I'm going to have to tally these up either with a graphic on socials or maybe at the end of this video, the next video of all of my picks, all your picks, Chris's, Joe's. I know they may not be able to join us and everything, but there's still been a lot of discussion between all four of us, so I want to kind of have something, so we can kind of keep track of who's picked too. So I'm going to try to create something here either this week or at the end of the video next week. Speaking of next week, we will be chatting about AJ Styles and Logan Paul. We should have a number one contender figured out from a gauntlet match on SmackDown after later actually tonight from when this airs. But should we have a number one contender for the titles for Liv and Raquel? And as we were talking about earlier, very, very good possibility of 1, 2, maybe even 3 more matches being added before we record next week. So try to get, we'll basically use one more episode to get the rest of the matches on the WrestleMania card. We'll go through those picks and we'll tally them all up. So everyone, thank you for watching, listening. I appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Please give the video a like, share it with your other wrestling fans, and we will say thank you and see you next week.